Hi everyone, it's me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alanna and I'm a Canadian, but I have been living here in the UK for the last 6 years, and I don't know what I'm going to call this video, but basically here is the premise. I've had a bunch of things just sort of happen in my life the last couple of weeks, things that are very like British culture stuff, British culture in real life really. And that might actually be the title. So I wanted to sit down with you guys and share some of these real life events that have happened to me in the last couple of weeks. So without further ado, let's go. First off, a very important lesson that any foreigner in the UK will learn is that anything can be a sandwich filling. Fish fingers, put it in a sandwich. French fries, put it in a sandwich. Strips of bacon, put it in a sandwich. This came up because the other day I had a bacon buddy, and as I was standing over the kitchen counter eating my bacon buddy, quite simply a bacon and butter sandwich, I thought, you know what? How British. But I've definitely had fish finger buddy. I've had a chip buddy. Chip buddy is one of those things that just really makes me laugh, and I actually made one on Patreon. My first ever one was on Patreon, and it is basically a sandwich with French fries. All aboard the train to Carb City. For real though, there is something about a bacon buddy. When you need it, and you know when you need it, it just like a light bulb goes off and you go, oh, a bacon buddy. Yes, please. And just like a slight variation in terms of like language, here in the UK, you guys will typically say streaky bacon. As a Canadian, to me, that is just what I would call bacon, you know, like the strips, streaky bacon. You get into some confusing bits when you get like Canadian bacon or back bacon, or you start buying like bacon medallions here in the UK. But just get like a streaky bacon from like a butcher's if you can. If you are close to one or you can spare the time to go to one separately, like proper bacon and a nice sandwich. Sometimes even just like whatever bread I have available, or a bun, or, you know, a baguette left over from something. I don't care. Just some sort of bread vessel with some butter. I personally like a little bit of ketchup. Bacon, delicious. And now I want one again. So thanks for that. Next up, I want to talk about browsing hours at the shops. So let me set the scene. And any foreigners watching, you let me know if this is something that happens in your country. I was walking home and I wanted to stop off at the shops. So it was a Sunday morning. I forgot it was a Sunday. I don't know what day of the week it is most days. So I see that the store is open, a Morrison's. I go in, I just need a couple of things. So I run around and I grab my little things. I'm done in like, I don't know, 2 minutes. All right. And then I get to the checkouts and they are all closed. And I thought, well, that can't be right. Maybe just they're all closed because it's early, but there's going to be one. No, they were all closed. Even the self-checkout machines were all locked. And then it dawned on me. It's Sunday morning. Now, British people in the comments are going to be better able to explain the whole browsing hour, Sunday early morning type situation, because it does come, from my understanding, quite an old law that I believe shops were closed on Sundays and now they are open on Sundays, but the hours are reduced. Plus, you have this element of browsing at the beginning. So what happened was I arrived at like 9:40. The shop opened at 9. So it was open for business at 9, but you cannot check out until 10 a.m. So they have this hour at the beginning where you can be browsing, but you cannot pay. And to be honest, it feels a little bit redundant, especially now when you have self-checkout machines. And I know some people say, well, that means you don't have to have like workers starting yet, but you have to have employees at the shop to open up, and you have to have employees, you know, in the building while people are browsing. Is it that difficult to have an employee to unlock the self-checkouts? I don't know. You can leave your opinion in the comments. But basically, I had to stand there with a group of us for about 15 minutes. We were all queued up waiting for them to unlock the self-checkout machines. And then this guy comes around and he just sort of scans all the machines, like presses a little button on them, and they're all open, and now we can check out. It feels a little bit outdated now, where technology can be used in a way to make it easier. Do you know what I mean? Like it feels a bit silly. And I think it sort of stems back to like, you're supposed to be in church, or you're supposed to be like, you know, day of rest, that kind of situation. But in 2022, I just want to buy my bread and my bacon to make a Sunday bacon butty. So yeah, it just felt kind of silly. We're all standing around just waiting for these machines to get unlocked so we can check out. I totally forgot about this because normally Sundays I like to film some videos, so I'm not really like shopping or anything. But on this particular Sunday, I found myself at Morrison's at the wrong time. But it's not something that I've ever experienced back home in Canada. Again, you can leave a comment down below if that's something that's normal. Maybe I am just naive to that. But it just seems like if you can't check out, just open later. You know, if you can't check out till 10, just open at 10, you know? I don't know, just my humble opinion. British culture can be very difficult to understand sometimes. And I think one way that really helps understand what's going around you, understand pop culture, understand current events is through reading, whether that's magazines or newspapers. And you can do that with the help of today's sponsor, Readly. So Readly is a digital subscription service where you pay monthly, you get access to over 6,000 different titles, whether domestic or international, and that is both newspapers and magazines, but they're all in one spot. Now, I don't know how much I've actually talked about this before, but before the whole like life in the UK stuff, I was a journalist. I was a reporter for a newspaper, and I still really believe in newspapers, and I think they are extremely important. And now that I'm a foreigner in a foreign country, they've become even more important because it helps me better understand my new home. So with Readly, I can access, honestly, so many newspapers, not just British ones, but international titles as well. You can do really neat things like bookmark them. You can save bits for later if you want to come back to them. You can also download editions so you can read them when you are offline. So maybe you are traveling. For me, I travel between Canada and the UK each year. So it's really nice to have things while I am on the plane that I can read. And this makes it really easy. So not only can I read the latest edition, say, of The Independent, but I can also go back and read past editions as well. They also have a magazine for literally any interest that you have. The app can give you suggestions. So if you plug in your interest, maybe like photography, maybe like travel, maybe like news and politics and celebrity stuff, you can plug that in and the app can give you some really interesting suggestions on what you can read. And you have access to all of this content. So it's pretty cool. There's like something for everybody. If you want to give it a go, I will have a link in the description and I'll put a link in the comment section. If you click my link, you can get 2 months free and you can cancel at any time. So it's totally up to you. Now, while talking about British culture and how things are different and how things are similar and how things are a little bit unique, I want to talk about the bowl in the sink. So this came up in a conversation with a friend the other day, and it just makes me smile. So when I first moved to the UK, almost 7 years ago, I discovered that a lot of you guys like to have a like big sort of plastic bowl in the sink, and you use that bowl to do the washing up, aka to wash the dishes. And I'll be completely honest with you guys because I feel like I can be honest with you. I hate that bowl. I don't like that bowl. So very early on, I did away with the bowl in the sink situation. But it came up in conversation with a friend and I was just like, oh my God, I totally forgot. And I don't know if we've ever spoken about this mysterious bowl on this channel before. So I was like, I gotta write this down. I gotta talk about it in a video. So from talking to some of you guys who use the bowl in the sink, or some friends whose parents use the bowl in the sink, my general understanding is that it protects the dishes in that you can keep them in a plastic dish rather than getting rattled around like in a metal sink. Also, if you need to like rinse something off, you can like, the bowl can kind of be like to the side and there's still access to the drain, and you can wash the dishes in the bowl, like all that kind of stuff. Sure, I personally don't like the bowl in the sink. It's just a personal preference, nothing against anybody who uses it. You do you. I just didn't like it, so I got rid of it pretty early on. But it brought a smile to my face because it did remind me of like very early on living in the UK and discovering this bowl. So nowadays, I'm very grateful that I have a dishwasher, which has not always been the case. We actually have a pretty decent one at this flat, so we are able to use a dishwasher when necessary. In a previous flat, I had a dishwasher that was like one of those like half sizes. That's as best as I can describe it. It's literally half the size of a regular dishwasher. And then in previous properties prior to that, I didn't have a dishwasher at all. So doing all the dishes in the sink. So like, I get the idea for having that bowl, and honestly, I really tried. I just didn't like it. So it's been many years since I've seen that infamous bowl in the sink. But if you use a bowl in the sink, let me know. We should run a poll. Should run a poll somewhere. Do you use a bowl in the sink? Okay, so next up, this is like a bit of a doozy, and I would like to discuss British funerals. Now, at the time of filming, I have not yet decided whether I would like to do a video on the Queen's passing. I am deeply sorry for everyone who is in mourning. It's very sad. She always kind of reminded me of my grandma, and I don't mean that in an offensive way. She just was like very like grandma type to me. And I don't really know if I want to do a video on that, or I would like to leave that for more professional people. I want my YouTube videos to be very lighthearted and very easy to watch and just like chill. And that's quite a heavy topic, and I know a lot of people have differing opinions on the whole bit. So just putting that out there, I'm not actually talking about the Queen's funeral. I would like to talk about British funerals for British everyday people. And I know I just said, I want my videos to be lighthearted. I also want to talk about funerals. But having lived in the UK for almost 7 years, I have unfortunately been to some British funerals. Not something that you would ever experience as a tourist here in the UK, or maybe like a short-term expat. You know, you come for a couple of years, maybe you come for uni and then you go back home. I feel like going to a British funeral is, I mean, it sucks. It sucks, and it's not something that I ever really thought about doing. But now that I've been here, it is something that happens. But I will just say, so how do I say this? I love British people, okay? I love you guys. If you've watched a couple of my videos, I hope that comes through. Not that the UK is perfect, it's certainly not, and I won't sugarcoat that, but I do love the British people, and I would say this with the most love and affection I can ever portray through a video. I love that an element of British funerals is that after the ceremony, after the very serious, somber stuff, a lot of you guys will go to the pub and just get absolutely pissed. So that is not really something I've experienced with Canadian funerals. And that's not something, it's not like, well, a couple of people are going to the pub afterwards. It's like, no, the ceremony, and then everyone is invited to this pub afterwards, and we're gonna get absolutely pissed. I think it's so, how do I describe that? It's sweet in a way that you can get just hammered. You can have so many pints of whatever you like, and you can share stories about your loved one that passed. You can talk about them. You can interact with friends and family in a way that is happy but bittersweet, but still like I really love it. And I don't want this to be offensive. I feel like I'm saying that a lot. It's not something I ever experienced before. And while funerals are horrible, and trust me, I get it, totally get it, there is something that I really love about British culture that not everybody's gonna do it, but you could have a very somber, serious ceremony, religious or otherwise, and then you go to the pub with everybody, with friends and family, and you celebrate the life of that person. So I realized that I did say I want my videos to be very lighthearted, and now we're talking about death, so deeply sorry. That is part of life. That is part of anyone's life, and it has been part of my life as a foreigner in the UK, is going to some British funerals, and that part, like going to the pub, just like really stood out to me, and I was like, I've not experienced this before. I feel like we should add this to a video. Next up, we are talking about the infamous X in messages. So I remember very early on when I was working in an office and I'm like texting with colleagues or coworkers and I'm trying to make new friends and I'm messaging people here in the UK, and people would use an X in their messages. And this really threw me because this is not something that happens in North America. So what do I mean by that? Well, British people already know exactly what I mean, but any foreigners watching, what I mean is simply you're texting with someone and they will include an X at the end of their message as a kiss. So in North America, we know XOXO as like kisses and hugs and stuff, but it's not something that you just like out of the blue send to someone, even someone you may not even know like totally well. You don't send that. So when it was happening to me here and people were sending me X's, and sometimes there'd be one X, sometimes there would be multiple X's. Sometimes an X here, sometimes an X in this situation, and you're just kind of like, I don't understand the cultural significance of what's going on. And more importantly, I do not understand what I should be doing. Because in situations like this, of course, you don't want to be rude, you don't want to be offensive, but you don't actually know like what the protocol is, because this is such like an unwritten rule. And it's something that you don't know about or understand until you actually experience it enough times. But why I include this point in this particular video is I was texting with a friend and we both, without thinking, without stressing about it, had X's in the messages. And I just like reflected back on it. I was like, hey, that came so naturally. And honestly, I really love this. I wish North America did something like it because it is so affectionate and sweet and cute and just like a nice thing to add. And now it is pretty natural to me. Sometimes, maybe not so much. I wouldn't be the first one to put the X, but once I see that someone has put the X, I feel then it is okay for me to do so. So I'm not brave enough to be the first one, but once that person has done it, I feel confident enough that I can include an X in my messages as just like a friend thing, a friendly, polite, affectionate thing. I think it's really nice. I think we should be more affectionate with friends and family, to be honest. Life is short. We literally just stopped talking about funerals. Life is short. Send an X to your friends and family. Tell them that you love them. I think it's just a wonderful thing. Because definitely early on, it's intimidating because you're like, is this friendly? Is this flirting? Is 1X okay? 2X? 3X's? What does that mean? What does 2X's mean? But then they've used 1X here. Like, what is the protocol? And looking back on it, honestly, it feels like a million years ago. So this is something that has become second nature. It just makes me smile. I wish Canada did something similar because honestly, it's pretty nice. Next up, a little bit of British culture in my day-to-day real life here in the UK. Let's just call this one bum bags. Okay, so let me set the scene, right? Bum bags have become like really fashionable again for some reason. And I vividly remember making fun of my mother using one when we were specifically on holiday when I was a kid. But apparently now they're pretty cool again. Now, I couldn't remember what British people call this item. Okay, I realize now it is a bum bag, but a couple weeks ago, the word just escaped me and I could not think of what it is, because in North America, we call it something else. And we actually call it something that is actually quite offensive here. How do I talk about this without YouTube getting upset? So we have to talk about a couple of word differences. So here in the UK, bum, yes? Bum bag. Bag is less important. Bum bag. In North America, we call those fanny packs, okay? Fanny being like an old person word for your butt. So actually, we are both using butt-based words, but here it is bum bag, and back home it is fanny pack. So, you know, it's not uncommon for a grandmother to call your butt, you know, sit your fanny down. I can't believe it. Anyway, sorry, moving on. The difficulty with this difference is that fanny, while a completely mild and useless and just sort of like old lady word in North America, for the British people watching are probably laughing at me because that is a word that they use for female private parts. So a couple of weeks ago, I was trying to think of what this product is called, bum bag. Like, I could not think of bum bag because all I could think of was fanny pack, and that's not really something that you want to be shouting here in the UK because to Brits it means something quite different. So I have embarrassed myself now, so hopefully you don't embarrass yourself in the future. And if you happen to buy a bum bag because they're really fashionable, you let me know where you bought it. All right, I think I could pull it off. I think you know, my mom would probably make fun of me because I made fun of her, but I think I could pull one off. Now, even though I have lived here for almost 7 years, sometimes these like British culture moments, I almost don't even notice. Like, there's so many things that happen to me that are British because frankly, I live here. But I do think it's really fun to, like, when something happens, I go, oh, that would not happen to me in Canada. And that's really exciting. If you like this video and you want to watch more videos, which would be totally awesome, why not check out this one where I went to my first ever hop festival and I drank too much. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, bye!